Hello and thank you for joining us. This is the news on NTAi International. I am Charles Alpha. Shegwajai is our sign language interpreter. But first, a quick look at some of our top stories. Nigeria wills investors to invest in her job-driven economic reform agenda. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu canvasses urgent collaborative efforts to combat malaria as the world marks 2025 World Malaria Day. And Russia ready for a deal on ways of putting an end to war with Ukraine. Nigeria's Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has emphasized job creation as a top priority for Nigeria during the 2025 World Bank Development Committee meeting in Washington, D.C. Lydia Sampson reports.
At the end of the closed-door meeting of the 2025 World Bank Development Committee meeting in Washington, D.C., Edu highlighted Nigeria's push for rapid, inclusive growth, stressing that expanding employment opportunities is crucial for lifting millions out of poverty and ensuring sustainable development.
There's focus on, particularly in Africa, where by 2050 there will be 25% of the world's population. There will be a young population, and so there was emphasis on what is needed to create jobs, a good macroeconomic environment, financial stability, and then the drawing in and the attracting of the private sector to invest and create good quality jobs.
He advocated for reforms to unlock private sector investment and expand social protection, positioning job creation at the heart of Nigeria's economic agenda. The minister's engagement at the meetings reflect Nigeria's commitment to economic resilience and international collaboration for sustainable development. From Washington, D.C., Lydia Sampson, NTAi News.
The United Nations said Friday it was deeply concerned by clashes between South Sudan's military and opposition forces in a southern state where displaced civilians said they had been left without food. Frama Pani reports.
The world's youngest nation, which is deeply impoverished, has long been troubled by insecurity and instability. But recent fighting between factions allied to President Salva Kiir and his longtime rival, Vice President Riek Machar, have sparked worries of renewed war. International observers fear a return of the 5-year civil war that cost some 400,000 lives and was ended by a 2018 peace deal which brought the two together in a unity government, but which appears to be unraveling. The United Nations mission in South Sudan said clashes between the South Sudan People's Defense Forces and the Sudan's People Liberation Army in opposition in neighboring Morobo and Ye counties in central Equatorial State have led to civilian displacement and casualties. The state includes capital Juba, and under the 2018 agreement was split into areas controlled by government and opposition forces. Pro-Marshal forces denounced government attacks on a military cantonment in the area earlier this week, urging civilians to leave. The UN did not give further details of the clashes, but urged an immediate cessation of hostilities, especially given the already fragile political and security conditions. In other news, Morocco's King Mohammed VI gave the flag off of a rail expansion plan worth 96 billion dirhams, that is $10.3 billion, including the construction of a high-speed line to Marrakesh, the country's main tourist hub, by 2030. Reports said Morocco's preparations to co-host the World Cup in 2030, together with Spain and Portugal, has spurred the extension of the high-speed intercity and urban rail networks. The new high-speed line, worth 53 billion dirhams, that is $5.7 billion, will start from Kenitra on the Atlantic coast and run 430 kilometers south to Marrakesh, serving Rabat and Casablanca along the way. Other trains are mainly intercity and urban trains, with ONCF planning to double the number of cities it serves to 43, 87% of the Moroccan population by 2040. Mohammed VI waved the Moroccan flag to mark the start of work on the extension of a high-speed train line which should be operational in the time for 2030 World Cup, which Morocco, Spain and Portugal are co-hosting. Frama Pani, NTAi News.
from Apani also reports that in Cote d'Ivoire, main opposition parties' advocacy for protests outside courts over the barring of its candidates from this year's presidential election drew only a few hundreds of supporters.
The government warned it will not permit any unrest, and police blocked off access to the courts in Abidjan, the economic capital, and Bouaké, the second largest city. On Tuesday, the Abidjan court struck Tijani Thiam off the electoral list, a decision that cannot be appealed and rules him out of standing in the October 25 election. The court posited Thiam had lost Ivorian nationality when he acquired French citizenship in 1987. His Democratic Party of Ivory Coast, PCDI, called for nationwide protest. In Abidjan, a march was planned in the morning from the party's headquarters to the courthouse, but only about 200 supporters gathered at the offices before dispersing. No marches were reported in other parts of the country. 6 months before Ivory Coast goes to the polls to elect a new head of state, the call to rally marked a key test for Thiam, a 62-year-old international banker who is currently in France. Election periods are often tense in Ivory Coast, where post-election violence in 2010 to 2011 left around 3,000 dead. But the last decade has seen the richest French-speaking country in sub-Saharan Africa and the world's top cocoa producer revert to being a haven of stability in a region marked by coup and jihadist attacks. From Apani, NTAi News.
Elsewhere, Donald Trump has urged Vladimir Putin to halt attacks in a rare rebuke following the deadliest strikes on Kyiv in months. Russian Foreign Minister says Moscow is ready to reach a deal, but there are still some specific points which need to be fine-tuned, and Moscow is currently working on that. US President Donald Trump says he is pushing Russia hard to agree to end the conflict in Ukraine after strikes on Kyiv drew more doubt on efforts to secure a ceasefire. Representatives from the Congolese government and the M23 rebels groups have agreed to halt the fighting in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, while brutal fighting between the Congolese armed forces and the Rwanda-backed rebels has ravaged North and South Kivu provinces since January, and previous negotiations yielded few results. This announcement to halt the civil war has been seen as the first positive steps towards an end to the violence. Previous talks were violated, and the road towards peace in a conflict that has simmered for several decades lingered. And while both sides affirmed that the recent talks in Doha were frank and constructive, some doubts remain over the progress of negotiation, which officials described as slow. The war in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has displaced hundreds of thousands and killed at least 7,000 people since January. The Vatican is already making final preparations for Pope Francis' funeral as the last of the huge crowds of mourners filed through its St. Peter's Basilica to view his open coffin for the third and final day of the Pope's lying in state. Many of the 50 heads of state and 10 monarchs attending Saturday's ceremony in St. Peter's Square, including U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky, are expected to arrive later today in Rome. Italian and Vatican authorities have placed the area around St. Petersburg under tight security, with drones blocked, snipers on roofs, and fighter jets on standby. Further checkpoints will be activated on Friday night, police said. Over 128,000 people have already queued to pay their last respect to Francis, whose coffin will be closed at 8 p.m. in a ceremony attended by senior cardinals. The Catholic Church's first Latin American pope died on Monday, aged 88, less than a month after spending weeks in hospital with severe pneumonia. And back in Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu sends a high-level delegation to Vatican City to attend the burial of His Holiness Pope Francis is scheduled for Saturday. Senate President Godswill Akpabio is at the head of the 5-member delegation. Other members of the delegation are the Minister of State, Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu, Archbishop Lucius Iwejuru Ugoji, President of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria, Archbishop of Sokoto Diocese, Archbishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, and Archbishop of Abuja Diocese, Archbishop Ignatius Ayua Kegama. Pope Francis, the revered head of the Roman Catholic Church, died on Monday, April 21, 2025, at 88, just a day after appearing for Easter Sunday celebration at the Vatican. The delegation will formally deliver a letter conveying President Tinubu's sympathy and condolences on Pope Francis passing to the acting head of the Vatican. On Monday, President Tinubu joined the Catholic faithful and Christians worldwide to mourn the death of Pope Francis, who he described as a humble servant of God, a tireless champion of the poor, and a guided light for millions. Nigeria First Lady Oluremi Tinubu has renewed her call on all government agencies, private sector partners, and other critical stakeholders in the health sector to recommit to the fight against malaria with urgency and resolve. This is in her message marking the 2025 World Malaria Day, where she notes that malaria is not just a public health challenge for Nigeria, but a national emergency as the nation bears the heaviest global burden of the disease. Harping on the need to work hard in order to reverse this trend, the First Lady describes the theme for the celebration, Malaria Ends With Us, Reinvest, Reimagine, Reignite, as both a call to action and a message of hope. She highlighted the need to review investment in life-saving interventions, increase awareness, and to revive the collective commitment needed to end malaria once and for all. Malaria ends with us, with our voices, our choices, our actions, she says, while calling on Nigerians to ensure that their environments and surroundings are clean and free of stagnant water, which serves as breeding ground for mosquitoes. And still on malaria, the Kogi state government is providing free treatments for malaria at designated centers, among other strategies to reduce incidence of malaria across the state. A state Ministry of Health announces this as part of activities commemorating the 2025 World Malaria Day. Jonathan Omajali reports.
Malaria continues to pose a significant global health threat, particularly in Africa and other endemic regions. Despite numerous efforts by both the government and private sector, the disease burden and mortality rates remain high, especially among children under the age of 5.
The prevalence of malaria in Kogi State as of 2022 report is 27%. So, and in our children under 5, we are having 16% in children under 5. So, it's still very much in our midst and it's affecting them.
World Malaria Day, observed every year on April 25, serves as a crucial reminder and platform to strengthen the global commitment to eliminating the disease.
The theme is reinvest, in communities, and it's timely because funds or funding for malaria interventions are dwindling.
Determined not to leave anything to chance, the state government has introduced several initiatives aimed at reducing the spread and impact of the disease.
The issue of environment has actually been proactive in making sure that the environment is very clean, cleaning our drainages. There has been not stagnant waters. The bushes are not allowed to be overgrown.
We thank God for the excellency. He has supplied malaria test kits and also free treatment in all our facilities. We have 2 primary health care per each ward, where we are rendering free malaria testing and treatment. It has started just 2 months ago, and we hope the government will sustain it.
This year's theme, Malaria Ends With Us, Reinvest, Reimagine, Reignite is a powerful call to action. In Lokoja, Jonathan Omajali, NTAi News.
Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions proposes more CBT centres in rural areas, and details of that will come to you after the break. Please do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. The Chairman, Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund, Senator Muntari Danduse, has proposed the establishment of more computer-based centres, especially in rural areas. The goal is to reduce the travel burden on candidates sitting for the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination. He made the proposal while monitoring the 2025 UTME exercise in Abuja, alongside members of his committee. Alain Kaujo reports.
Meet 25-year-old Joseph Bam, one of the candidates sitting for the 2025 UTME. He is the last but one child in a family of 7. Joseph had to travel for several hours just to get to his examination center. His ambition is to study political science in one of Nigeria's tertiary institutions.
I come from a very poor background and we don't have any connection. We struggling to, secure. So I feel if I should study politics, I will have a lot of opportunities where I can bring awareness in my community.
Unlike Joseph, Adeja, Amanga, and Yusuf Silas had their examination center close to their houses.
It was not so bad, it was okay.
The computer did not have any issue, so I just finished everything.
While monitoring the examination at 2 centers in the Federal Capital Territory, members of the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions acknowledged the challenges faced by candidates traveling long distances and assured that steps will be taken to address the situation. The committee pledged to advocate for the inclusion of the initiative in the 2026 budget.
Highly transparent, very commendable.
The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM, noted that despite a few hitches, the 2025 UTME exercise has been largely smooth and successful.
Out of the 887 centers that we're using for the exercise, we just have barely 4 of them, 2 in Kano and 2 in Sokoto, that fell short of our expectations.
Stakeholders are hopeful that the proposal for a more rural CBT centers will soon be actualized, ensuring equitable access to tertiary education opportunities across Nigeria. Olain Kaujo, NTAi News.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons have set up teams on both sides to strengthen the fight against connected menace of human and drug abuse. The fresh effort was the high point of discussions between the NTAi chairman, Mohammed Boba Marwa, and the Director General of NAPTIP, Binta Adamu Bello, when latter led her management team on a courtesy visit to Marwa at the agency's national headquarters in Abuja. Speaking during the meeting, Marwa congratulated Adamu Bello on her well-deserved appointment to lead a very important agency like NAPTIP and commended her for hitting the ground running. The NTAi boss said there's a linkage between human trafficking, drug trafficking and abuse. He assured her of NTAi's preparedness to deepen collaboration with NAPTIP and named a 3-member liaison team that will work with the team from NAPTIP on agreed areas of partnership. The NAPTIP Director General emphasized the importance of deepening partnership between the 2 agencies to the disruption of criminal networks involved in human and drug trafficking as well as substance abuse. Together, they agreed that the trafficking crime thrive on similar enablers, that is, porous borders, corruption, poverty, weak institution, and digital space. The Minister of Regional Development, Abubakar Momo, has emphasized the need for regional commissions to innovate strategies that would bring about effective development, especially to regions affected by insurgency, banditry, and communal conflict. The Minister stated this at an interactive session with the Northern East Development Commission in Abuja. Ilyasu Ali Yakubu completes the report.
Has been experiencing destruction of lives and property occasioned by insurgency, banditry and communal conflict in most parts of the regions. As a result of these developments, the federal government saw the need to establish regional commissions to directly develop these regions through rehabilitation, recovery, and building of critical infrastructures to rekindle the hope of the people. These interactive sessions with the Ministry of Regional Development and the Northeast Development Commission is strategically initiated to streamline areas of focus in the development of the regions. The Regional Development Minister maintained that the ministry will work hard to give Nigerians the reason to smile by working with the regional commissions.
Must be seen to have come out from this regional ministry.
The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Northeast Development Commission, Mohammed Gwani Al-Khali, expressed confidence in the Commission's desire to complete the master plan initiated to change the narrative in the Northeast.
All of what we have said earlier is based on the master plan. We have also zeroed out the master plan, which is the guiding document for the Commission.
That's why we have continuously progressed systematically, and we are going on according to plan.
This is where we end the news. Many thanks for being part of it. I am Charles Alpha. Thanks for watching.